The alien fleet arrived in silence, their massive warships gliding through the dark void of space. The lead ship, the Dominator, stood at the center, its black metal surface reflecting the distant glow of Earth's sun. Admiral Zorvaz of the Siluri Empire leaned forward in his command chair, his sharp, reptilian eyes fixed on the blue-green planet below. A single world, one planet. That was all humanity had. He let out a chuckle, a deep, rumbling sound that spread across the bridge. "They are weak," Zorvaz said, his voice filled with amusement. "A species that has never left its own cradle. They think this tiny rock is their kingdom." The officers around him smirked, their sharp teeth glinting under the dim lights of the ship. "The humans call it Earth," one of them said, shaking his head. "A single home, a single world. How pathetic." Zorvaz nodded. The Siluri Empire ruled over 100 worlds, their influence stretching across countless star systems. They had crushed civilizations that had fleets, colonies, and massive space stations. And yet this backward species had dared to resist their empire. "Commander Valak," Zorvaz called, turning toward his second-in-command. "Begin scans. I want to know everything about this world before we take it." Valak saluted and activated the ship's advanced scanning systems. A soft hum filled the air as the scanners swept across Earth's surface. Zorvaz waited, expecting nothing but weakness. But then, something unexpected happened. The ship's control panels flickered. The lights dimmed for a moment. A strange, unfamiliar energy pulsed through the scanners. The officers frowned. "What was that?" Zorvaz asked, his amusement fading. Valak's fingers danced over the controls, his expression tense. "Sir, I don't know. The energy readings." He paused. "They don't make sense." Zorvaz narrowed his eyes. "Explain." Valak hesitated, then pulled up the data on the main screen. A large, rotating image of Earth appeared, surrounded by strange, shifting energy waves. "The planet is producing some kind of interference," Valak said slowly. "It's disrupting our scans. The energy signatures, they're unnatural." Zorvaz frowned. "Impossible. What kind of interference?" Valak shook his head. "Not natural. Not from their technology. It's coming from beneath the surface." The officers exchanged uneasy glances. "There must be an error," one of them muttered. "A scanning glitch." Zorvaz growled, his claws tapping against the armrest of his chair. "Then send a probe. I want a full surface analysis." Valak nodded and gave the order. A sleek black probe launched from the ship, streaking toward Earth like a falling star. Zorvaz leaned back, watching. This was just another weak planet, another easy conquest. And yet, a strange feeling crept over him, a feeling he did not like. The probe entered Earth's atmosphere, its sensors collecting data as it descended. It scanned oceans, mountains, forests, and cities. Everything seemed ordinary. Then it scanned deeper, beneath the surface, beneath the crust. And that's when it happened. The screens aboard the Dominator flashed red. A loud alarm blared across the bridge. "Warning. Probe lost. Signal terminated." Zorvaz shot to his feet. "What? What happened?" Valak's hands flew over the controls, trying to retrieve the lost data. His face paled. "Sir, the probe was destroyed." Zorvaz's eyes darkened. "Destroyed? By what?" Valak hesitated. His hands trembled as he pulled up the last image the probe had sent. It was a grainy, distorted image. At first, it looked like darkness. Then something moved. A shadow. A massive, shifting thing beneath the planet's surface. Zorvaz stared, his claws tightening into fists. That was no natural formation. For the first time since arriving, he felt something deep in his chest. Unease. The officers around him whispered, fear creeping into their voices. "What is that?" one asked. "No idea," Valak muttered. "But whatever it is, It's not supposed to be there. Zorvez forced himself to remain calm. It was just a shadow, just an anomaly. And yet, a small, quiet voice in the back of his mind whispered something he refused to acknowledge. Maybe Earth is not what it seems. Maybe humanity is not as weak as we thought. Zorvaz took a deep breath, then gave his next command. "Send a scouting team," he ordered. "I want boots on the ground." He turned to face the planet, his eyes narrowing. He would find out Earth's secrets, no matter what it took. The HFY scouting vessel sliced through Earth's atmosphere like a falling dagger. It was sleek, silent, and nearly invisible to the primitive human detection systems. Aboard the ship, Commander Valek prepared his team. He had led countless invasions before. This was supposed to be just another mission. A weak planet, a species with no real power, an easy conquest. But the probe's last transmission still haunted him. The shadow, the shifting mass beneath the planet. Something felt wrong. The shuttle touched down in a dense, dark forest. The ramp lowered, and 6 HFY soldiers stepped out, their armored boots sinking slightly into the soft earth. Their weapons hummed with lethal energy, ready for anything. Valek took a deep breath, his eyes scanning the surroundings. The trees stretched high, their leaves rustling in the wind. The air was thick with moisture, filled with strange earthy scents. "This planet is too quiet," one of the soldiers muttered. Valek ignored him and activated his wrist scanner. The energy readings were still there, faint but constant, coming from deep underground. "Move out," he ordered. "We find the source. We report back." The squad advanced through the forest, their steps silent, their weapons raised. Then, the first soldier vanished. No sound, no warning. One moment he was there, the next, gone. "Two." Another soldier whispered, looking around frantically. Where did he go? Valek's grip on his weapon tightened. He scanned the area. No life signs, no heat signatures. Just emptiness. "Stay close," he ordered. "No one separates." They pushed forward, tension crackling in the air. Then they reached it, a massive crater hidden beneath the forest canopy. It was unnatural, perfectly circular, as if something had burned away the ground in an instant. Valek stepped forward carefully, looking down. The crater was deep, too deep, and at the bottom. A door, not a human door, not a HFY door. Something ancient, something not meant to be opened. The air around them grew heavy, thick with an unseen force. Then, the whispers began. Faint, at first, a language they did not know. The soldiers froze. Their eyes widened in terror. The shadows at the bottom of the crater shifted, and this time, it was watching them back. The whispers grew louder. They came from everywhere and nowhere at once. A language unknown to the HFY, yet it sent a shiver through their bodies. Commander Valek's instincts screamed at him to retreat, but he forced himself to focus. They were warriors. They did not run from the unknown. "Scan the structure," he ordered, his voice steadier than he felt. A soldier activated his wrist scanner, aiming it at the strange door at the bottom of the crater. Numbers and symbols flickered on the screen. His eyes widened. "Sir, this isn't metal. It's..." The ground lurched. The air thickened. The soldier's scanner exploded in his hands. He screamed, falling backward. Then, silence. Not just ordinary silence. A void. No wind. No rustling trees. No sound at all. Valek's heart pounded. He turned to his squad, but they were not alone anymore. Dark figures stood at the edge of the crater. Humanoid, but wrong. Their bodies flickered, shifting between solid and shadow. Their eyes glowed with a dull golden light. The whispers turned to words. "You should not have come." One soldier raised his weapon and fired. A bolt of energy shot forward, then vanished, swallowed by the air itself. The figures did not move. The soldier collapsed. No wound, no sound, just gone. Valak's claws tightened around his rifle. He had fought countless battles, conquered planets, wiped out species. But this was different. The HFYStories were not hunters here. They were prey. The whispers surged into a deafening roar. The last thing Valak saw before everything turned black was the door beginning to open. Darkness swallowed the world. Commander Valak gasped as the air around him shifted, pressing against his body like a crushing wave. His vision blurred, the towering trees of Earth's forest fading into a void of swirling shadows. Then, light. Faint, flickering, golden. It pulsed from the door at the bottom of the crater. Valak barely had time to react before the figures moved. No sound, no hesitation. One moment, they stood still. The next, they were among the HFYStories. A soldier screamed. His body twisted unnaturally, as if unseen hands were pulling him apart from the inside. Then, he was gone. The HFYStories fired their weapons. Energy bolts tore through the air, but nothing hit. The figures walked through the blasts as if they weren't there. Valak's instincts screamed. This was not a battle. This was a warning. Then, the door opened. The air rippled. From the depths of the crater, something stepped forward. It was not human. Not HFYStories. Not anything Valak had ever seen. It was tall, ancient, cloaked in shadows. Its body shifted and flickered, like it did not belong to this world. Its eyes burned like dying stars. And when it spoke, the planet itself seemed to tremble. "You are not the first to come here." The HFYStories froze. The voice echoed in their minds, bypassing their translators. It was old, older than their empire. Others have tried to claim this world. They are gone now. Valak's breathing was ragged. What are you?" The being tilted its head. A guardian. A prison warden. A warning. The golden light flickered. For the first time, Valak saw what lay beyond the door. And his blood turned to ice. A void. A chasm deeper than space itself. And within it, things moved. Things with no form, no shape, no mercy. The guardian raised a single hand. The air hummed with unseen power. "Leave." Valak didn't hesitate. "Fall back," he roared. The surviving HFYStories ran, scrambling away from the crater. The whispers faded behind them. The guardian did not follow. But the warning remained. As they reached their ship, panting and shaken, Valak turned his gaze to the skies. For the first time in his life, he felt something the HFYStories were not supposed to feel. Fear. Valak's feet pounded against the damp earth as he sprinted toward the shuttle. The remaining soldiers followed, their breaths ragged, their eyes wild with terror. Behind them, the crater pulsed with an eerie golden glow. The shadows shifted, whispering in a language they couldn't understand. Valak didn't dare look back. This wasn't a battle. This was survival. A soldier stumbled, his leg caught in a twisted root. Another HFYStories reached out to help, but the air around them bent. The fallen soldier froze. His eyes widened in silent horror as his body flickered, phasing in and out of existence. Then he was gone. No scream, no sound, just erased. Valak clenched his jaw, forcing himself to keep moving. He had seen planets burn. He had led invasions against countless species, but never had he faced something like this. The forest around them shifted, the trees stretching taller, their branches twisting unnaturally. The planet was rejecting them. They burst into a clearing where the HFYStories shuttle waited. Its sleek silver hull gleamed under the pale moonlight. The ramp was already lowering. "Move, move," Valak barked. The first soldier leaped onto the ramp. The second. The third. Then, the air change. A pressure crushed down on them, thick and suffocating. Valak turned, his heart hammering. The guardian stood at the edge of the trees. It did not move. It did not attack. It only watched. The golden glow of its eyes burned into Valak's mind, a silent warning. With a final lunge, he threw himself into the shuttle. "Launch," he roared. The engines roared to life. The ramp sealed shut. The ship shook violently as it lifted off, breaking through the thick atmosphere. Inside, the HFY slumped against the walls, silent. No one spoke. No one could speak. As the ship broke into orbit, Valak risked one final glance at the planet below. Earth looked small, fragile, insignificant. But he knew the truth now. It was none of those things. It was a prison. And the HFY had barely escaped. The HFY warship hovered in orbit, its massive form casting a dark shadow over Earth. Inside, the command deck was eerily quiet. Commander Valak stood at the viewport, his claws clenched behind his back. His breathing was steady, but his mind raced. They had barely survived. The Guardian's glowing eyes haunted him. The whispers still echoed in his head, and beneath Earth's surface, something old and powerful remained locked away. "Commander," the voice broke the silence. Valak turned. Officer Dren stood at attention, his skin pale, his posture stiff. "Sir, we are receiving a message from High Command." Valak exhaled sharply. He knew what was coming. Put it through. A holographic projection flickered to life. The image of Overlord Seltar filled the room, his reptilian features twisted in annoyance. "Valak," the Overlord's voice was cold. "Report." Valak hesitated. He had served the HFY Empire for decades. He had never failed a mission. Until now. "Sir, this planet is not what we thought." Zeltar's eyes narrowed. "Explain." Valak chose his words carefully. "Earth is dangerous. There is something beneath the surface. Something even we do not understand." The Overlord's expression hardened. Did the humans resist? Valak hesitated. "No." "Then what?" Valak swallowed. "Something else is protecting this world. It is ancient, powerful, not of human origin." Zeltar scoffed. "My patience wears thin, Valak. Are you suggesting we should abandon conquest over a primitive species and ghost stories?" "Sir," Valak's voice was firm now. "If we attack, we will not win." The Overlord's eyes darkened. Silence filled the room. The command crew waited, tense. Then, Zeltar's expression shifted. Not to anger, but something worse. Amusement. "Oh, Valak," the Overlord chuckled, shaking his head. "You truly do not understand, do you?" A cold chill ran through Valak's spine. "The Empire does not fear unknown forces," Zeltar said. "We destroy them." Valak's jaw tightened. "Sir, you will remain in orbit," the Overlord interrupted. "A fleet is already on the way." The hologram flickered off. Silence. The crew shifted uneasily. Valak turned back to the viewport, staring at the blue planet below. A fleet was coming. He thought of the crater, the whispers, the Guardian's words. Others have tried to claim this world. They are gone now. The HFY were making a mistake, and Valak knew Earth would not warn them again. The HFY fleet arrived in force. Hundreds of warships emerged from the void, their sleek metallic hulls gleaming under Earth's sun. The Empire did not hesitate. The invasion had begun. Commander Valak stood on the bridge of his warship, watching in silence. His warnings had been ignored. The Overlord wanted war. But war against what? From orbit, Earth looked peaceful, fragile, a single planet in the vastness of space. But Valak knew better. And soon, the fleet would know too. A deep hum filled the air. Not from the ships, from the planet. It started as a whisper, a low, vibrating pulse that rattled the hulls of the HFY warships. Instruments flickered. Scanners failed. Then, the shadows moved. Across Earth's surface, massive black structures rose from the ground. Not human-made, not natural. They had been waiting for a threat, waiting for a reason to awaken. And now, the HFY had given them one. The fleet fired first. A rain of plasma fell upon the planet, lighting up the sky. Cities burned. Mountains shattered. It should have been enough to reduce Earth to dust. But it wasn't, because the shadows absorbed the fire. The dark structures twisted and pulsed, and from them, something emerged. The Guardians. They rose from the depths of the planet, their forms shifting between solid and void. The same figures Valak had seen in the crater, but now there were thousands. The HFY warships targeted them. Fired again. The energy blasts vanished before impact. The Guardians lifted their hands, and the fleet began to fall. One by one, warships blinked out of existence. No explosions, no wreckage, just gone. Valak's breath hitched. He turned to his crew. Retreat. Now. His ship pulled away just as the HFY fleet collapsed. The Overlord's flagship was the last to go. Zeltar's final transmission was a scream, cut short. Then, silence. Earth remained, untouched, as if the invasion had never happened. Valak stared at the planet, his claws trembling. The HFY Empire had underestimated Earth, and now it was gone. This world was never meant to be conquered. It was meant to be feared.